Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's good to be back with you guys. I've been getting a ton of questions from you guys about what it's like to live in Russia. So today, we're diving deep. We're going on a journey to explore the top 10 surprises that Americans experience when they move to Russia. This is your ultimate guide to navigating the wild, wonderful world of Russia. Now, whether you're planning on moving to Russia, dreaming of visiting someday, or just curious about life outside the US, this video is for you. Oh, and before we get started, make sure to subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on any of the awesome content coming up on this channel. All right, let's jump right into it. First up, let's talk about the language barrier. It's a whole different ballgame when you're living in a country where English isn't the primary language. You land at the airport excited and then, bam! You realize you can't even decipher the airport signs. It's a humbling experience to say the least. Learning a few basic Russian phrases can be a lifesaver. Even just knowing how to say hello, thank you, and excuse me can go a long way. It shows the locals that you're making an effort, that you're respecting their culture. Russians are awesome people. They're warm, they're welcoming, and they'll appreciate the effort. The language barrier isn't just about the spoken word, it's about navigating everyday life. It's about deciphering menus, reading street signs, and trying to understand what the heck is going on around you. It's a constant learning process, but that's part of the adventure, right? Just remember, patience is key. Keep practicing, keep immersing yourself, and you'll be surprised at how quickly you start to pick things up. All right, let's talk about the weather in Russia, specifically the winters. Now, I'm from New York City, so I thought I knew a thing or two about cold weather. But let me tell you, Russia takes it to a whole other level. We're talking bone-chilling, face-numbing, I can't feel my toes kind of cold. Seriously, I remember my first winter in Moscow. I was bundled up in layers upon layers of clothing, and I still felt like I was walking through a giant freezer. But here's the thing, Russians, they're used to it. They laugh in the face of winter. They walk around in their winter boots and fur hats like it's nothing. And you know what? There's a certain beauty to it. The snow transforms the cities into these magical winter wonderlands. Everything is covered in this pristine white blanket, and the air is crisp and clean. But let's be real, surviving a Russian winter takes some serious preparation. Invest in a good quality winter coat. And don't even think about leaving the house without a hat, gloves, and a scarf. And that means embracing the Russian tradition of drinking hot tea. It's the perfect way to warm up from the inside out. Okay, let's talk about something that can be a bit of a minefield for Americans moving to Russia: cultural differences. Now, I'm not talking about the obvious stuff like language or food. I'm talking about the subtle nuances of social interaction that can really throw you off if you're not prepared. First off, let's talk about greetings. In the US, we're all about the handshake, right? Firm grip, direct eye contact, the whole deal. But in Russia, it's a little different. Men typically greet each other with a handshake, but women usually greet each other with a kiss on the cheek. And not just one kiss, but three. One on each cheek and then back to the first cheek. It can be a little overwhelming at first, but just go with the flow. And don't be afraid to initiate the greeting. Russians are generally very warm and welcoming people, and they'll appreciate the effort. So don't be alarmed if someone stands a little closer to you than you're used to. Just relax, go with the flow, and embrace the difference. Chapter 4. A Feast for the Senses, Exploring Russian Cuisine. All right, let's talk about one of my favorite things about Russia, the food. One of the first things you need to try when you get to Russia is borscht. It's a traditional soup made with beets, cabbage, and meat, and it's absolutely delicious. Trust me, it's like a warm hug in a bowl. Another must-try is pelmeni. They're basically little dumplings filled with meat and served with sour cream. They're so good, you'll want to eat a whole plate by yourself. And for those of you with a sweet tooth, you have to try serniki. They're these little cheese pancakes that are pan-fried and served with sour cream, jam, or honey. But here's the thing. Russian food isn't just about the traditional dishes. It's about the experience. It's about gathering with friends and family, sharing a meal, and enjoying each other's company. So, when you're in Russia, make sure to find a local restaurant, order a bunch of different dishes, and dig in. Chapter 5. Riding the Rails, Mastering Public Transportation. All right, let's talk about getting around in Russia, specifically public transportation. Now, if you're coming from the US, where cars reign supreme, get ready for a whole new world. In Russia, public transportation is king, especially in big cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg. The public transportation system in Russia is incredibly efficient, affordable, and easy to use. First up, let's talk about the metro. The Moscow metro is legendary. It's not just a way to get around, it's an experience in itself. The stations are like underground palaces, with ornate chandeliers, marble columns, and intricate mosaics. And the best part? It's incredibly efficient. Trains run every few minutes, and you can get to pretty much anywhere in the city for just a few rubles. Now, if you're not in the mood for the underground experience, there are always buses, trams, and trolleybuses. They might not be as glamorous as the metro, but they're just as reliable and affordable. And here's a pro tip: download a transportation app like Yandex Metro or Yandex Transport. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. Chapter 6. Healthcare 101. Understanding the Russian system. All right, let's talk about something that's important no matter where you are in the world: healthcare. Now, the healthcare system in Russia is quite different from what you're used to in the US. First off, it's a universal healthcare system, which means that everyone has access to medical care, regardless of their income or employment status. The quality of healthcare in Russia can vary depending on where you are and what kind of treatment you need. But in general, the doctors are highly trained and the hospitals are well equipped. So, if you're planning on moving to Russia, make sure to familiarize yourself with the system and get all the necessary paperwork in order. All right, let's talk about something that's always on everyone's mind: money, specifically the cost of living in Russia. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions about Russia is that it's super expensive. And while it's true that Moscow and St. Petersburg can be pricey, especially if you're living in the city center, the rest of the country is actually quite affordable. Groceries, transportation, and entertainment are all generally cheaper in Russia than in the US. Of course, the cost of living will vary depending on your lifestyle and spending habits. But in general, you can live comfortably in Russia without breaking the bank. Just be smart about your spending, shop around for the best deals, and don't be afraid to haggle a little bit, especially at markets and with taxi drivers. All right, let's talk about something that Russia is famous for: its history. Russia has a long and fascinating history, and it's evident everywhere you go. From the grandeur of the Kremlin to the somber beauty of the Hermitage Museum, Russia is a country that's steeped in history and culture. One of the first places you need to visit when you're in Russia is Red Square. It's the heart of Moscow, and it's home to some of the country's most iconic landmarks, including St. Basil's Cathedral and Lenin's Mausoleum. Another must-visit is the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg. It's one of the largest and oldest museums in the world, and it houses a vast collection of art and artifacts from around the globe. So, put on your walking shoes, grab a map, and get ready to explore the fascinating history and culture of Russia. All right, let's talk about something that's always more fun in a new country: holidays. One of the biggest holidays in Russia is New Year's Eve. It's a much bigger deal than Christmas, and it's celebrated with a feast, fireworks, and plenty of champagne. Another important holiday is Victory Day, which commemorates the Soviet victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. But it's not just the big national holidays that are worth celebrating. Russia also has a number of smaller, more traditional holidays like Maslenitsa, which is a week-long celebration of the end of winter. All right, let's talk about something that can be a bit tricky to navigate: Russian humor. Now, Russian humor is definitely different from American humor. It's often more sarcastic, ironic, and self-deprecating. One of the things you'll notice about Russian humor is that it often revolves around wordplay and puns. Russians love to play with language, and they're always coming up with new and creative ways to use words. Another common theme in Russian humor is absurdity. Russians have a high tolerance for the absurd, and they often find humor in situations that others might find strange or even uncomfortable. So, if you find yourself in a situation where you don't understand a joke, don't be afraid to ask for an explanation. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Hopefully, this video gave you a little taste of what to expect if you're planning on moving to Russia, or even just visiting. It's a country full of surprises, but it's also a country full of warmth, hospitality, and incredible experiences. Comment below if you've experienced any of these surprises, or if you have any other tips for Americans moving to Russia. I'd love to hear your stories and insights. And as always, stay curious, keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next video.